So today is the first day of my series on navigating emotional stress. Today we're talking about why you've struggled to express how you truly feel. So listen, this topic is very interesting because I see so often that this is a big struggle for a lot of us. And I have a story to tell you guys. So, just a few months ago, I was a part of this group of women, this support group that I was a part of. And we were on this call. And at the end of the call, I got the courage to share something with them. And it was not easy because I was a little bit embarrassed about what I wanted to share. So I finally got up the courage to share a little something, right? So I'm sharing this with them, and I'm like asking everyone to pray for me. And all of a sudden the leader of the group starts asking me these questions, and she's asking me these questions that pretty much forced me to share what was actually really truly on my heart, like really just getting to the core of what the real issue was. And it was so difficult for me to actually truly express what I was feeling because I was just so embarrassed and I was so ashamed. And the thing that I shared with them was something that I had never in my life openly shared with anybody, and it was something that I really had never actually been through ever. So there was a lot of shame and embarrassment that I was dealing with. And the whole entire situation, the whole entire time that I'm talking, it was just like all this anxiety running through my veins. My voice started cracking. It was just really, really uncomfortable. And the interesting thing, though, that happened after that situation is that at the end of that call, this anxiety and fear turned into gratitude and love, because the situation, led to a blessing, a very unexpected blessing at that. And I learned a lot about myself and about the power of truth and voice in that moment. And it speaks to a very important topic that I'm going to be addressing today, about why you've been so afraid or struggling to express how you truly feel. So we're going to get into that a little bit later today, but I wanted to share that with you guys today because expressing how you truly feel and what's really truly on your heart is incredibly powerful and incredibly important. So I'm Nigeria. I'm a creative emotional wellness coach, and I am a woman who values authenticity, truth, health, love, beauty, creativity, and innovation. And I make it easy for people to eliminate the stress of dealing with their emotions. So I'm going to be talking to you guys this entire week about navigating emotional stress. Actually, we're going to be having a conversation together about navigating emotional stress. Now, I'm recording this video today, but tomorrow will be live. So if you want to join me live, absolutely make sure that you are here. I'm going to change the timing to a later in the day, probably around 8:30 p.m., which is a lot more feasible for most people. But today we're going to be recorded. But for those of you watching the recording, I have some things for you as well. So I want to let you guys know that I also am offering some emotional coaching sessions with me. I do assist people one-on-one. You can schedule a private session with me. I also have a 4-session coaching package, and I'm also offering a private VIP day retreat for those people that are stressed out, struggling, those professionals who know that they need a break, they need a day off. I have a private retreat called De-Stress and Express where I will spend the entire day with you, helping you to relax, to release, to let go of the emotions and the stress that you've been holding on to. And it's a great opportunity for you to relax, for you to let go of stress and to tap into your inner child. So if at any time you feel called to connect with me, I'm leaving a link here that you can click on to schedule a free 15-minute Help Me Navigate My Emotions call, and I'll be able to sit and chat with you so that we can see how I may be able to assist you. All right, so let's jump back into our topic for today: why you've been so afraid to express how you truly feel. So if I could pinpoint about 5 different emotions that gets in the way of us truly expressing how we feel, here's what those 5 emotions would be. Number 1, shame. Okay, we're ashamed about what we actually truly feel. Shame is part of what I was feeling when I was trying to express my truth in that conversation and why it was so difficult. Number 2, embarrassment. Quite often we're embarrassed about how we truly feel and we don't want to admit that. Embarrassment is not easy. Number 3, fear, right? This is pretty common. Like most of us are just walking around in fear about so many different things, right? Number 4, anxiety. We're projecting all these ideas about what we think is going to happen, something that hasn't happened yet, but we have all these ideas about what we think might happen, and that can prevent us from actually taking action. And then number 5 would be doubt. We're doubting ourselves. We're doubting our truth. We're doubting how we feel. We're doubting everything. We're doubting that the person is actually going to respond to us. So we don't share how we truly feel because we have those 5 emotions that can prevent us from actually expressing our truth. Now, this is really common. It's way more common than we recognize. And this is part of the reason why it can be so challenging and confusing to even deal with emotions, because we have emotions and then we have feelings about our emotions. And those feelings that we have about our emotions typically can make everything way more confusing. So we want to be mindful that we're not allowing those 5 emotions to get in the way of how we truly feel, because that's a really big thing in our society. So how many of y'all can relate to this? How many of you guys will admit that when you are in the process of trying to express how you truly feel, at some point you felt shame, embarrassment, fear, anxiety, or doubt? If so, you want to be mindful of those things, because we have to remember that as it relates to our emotions, your emotions are really just your truth in that moment. And your truth is never wrong. So when you are expressing and exploring your truth in that moment, you don't want to allow any outside forces or other emotions like the 5 that I mentioned to get in the way of you expressing your truth. So that's the first reason why we typically are afraid to express how we truly feel. Put some emojis in the comments and let me know that y'all are listening to me, that y'all are hearing what I'm saying, that y'all can relate to what I'm saying. Put some emojis in the comments and let me know that y'all are ready for number 2. So the second reason why we typically are struggling to express how we truly feel is because we can't tell the difference between the what and the how. Now let me explain this to y'all. Let me go a little bit deeper into what I mean when I say we can't tell the difference between the what and the how. So if any of you guys have been following, if you have any relationship coaches that you follow, or you're just on social media and you see every now and then you see people talking about relationship stuff, quite often you'll see many of the relationship coaches out here will tell us that communication is one of the most important aspects of any kind of relationship, right? If you want to be in a healthy, functional relationship, it's important to know how to communicate. And I agree with that. Absolutely. But then we have to go a little bit deeper and ask ourselves, why is communication so difficult? Well, my theory is because part of the reason it's difficult is because when we want to communicate something, most of us don't actually take the time, or don't know how to take the time to actually process the emotions we're feeling first. And so then it becomes difficult to understand the difference between the what and the how. When there's something that you want to communicate to somebody else, what you say to that person is a reflection of your mental state, right? So when we're struggling with communication, most of the time we think it's an issue of, oh, I don't know what to say. But in most cases, you do know what to say. You're just afraid to say it because you know that if you say the wrong thing, there could be some consequences, right? So usually we do know what we want to say. We just don't know if it's the best thing to say because we don't want to have to deal with the consequences of that, especially if this is a relationship that we want to keep, a relationship that we care about, right? So the how part of it, the what part of it is, what do I say to this person? That's a reflection of your mental state or your truth. Because essentially, if you want to know what to say, you just need to tell the truth. That's really the easiest way to figure out what to say, right? Tell the truth. But the how part of it is a reflection of your emotional state. And this is where sometimes it gets real tricky, because this is what makes things real messy when we're in relationships and we're trying to communicate with people. You can be somebody who knows what you think, right? And you know what your truth is. Let's say, for example, you're someone that's not really afraid to tell someone the truth. But you can tell the truth and still say it in a very mean, nasty way. Or you can tell the truth and say it in a very kind, loving way, right? So the communication process is really about understanding the how and the what. The what you say is a reflection of your mental state and your truth. The how you say it is a reflection of your emotional state. So when you're struggling with trying to figure out, well, what are the emotions that I'm feeling? And you don't actually know how to identify that, then naturally it's going to become difficult. And going back to number one, we talked about those 5 emotions that can get in the way. When you're allowing shame, fear, doubt, embarrassment, or anxiety to lead your choices, then that naturally is going to get in the way of what you are actually truly feeling. That's why you have to be careful with those emotions, right? So this is why it can get really confusing. This is why you can sometimes feel something and you're just like, I don't know what I feel. You do know, you're just not allowing yourself to explore your truth because you've already made a judgment about it, okay? So this is really what's happening, and this is part of why it's difficult for you to express what you truly feel. So I have a question for you guys now. I want you guys to answer this question for me because I'm really curious. I would love to know how do you guys typically respond to situations with people where, for example, let's say that you need to tell someone something, right? And this is someone that you care about, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, and you need to say something to them that's just not easy to say, right? So you just need to have some kind of difficult conversation. Or how would you handle a situation where someone asks you to do something for them and you have the capacity to do it, but you just don't feel like doing it? What do you typically do in those situations? Put some notes in the comments below and let me know what you typically do. Do you ignore them? Do you procrastinate? Do you ghost people? Do you tell a little white lie just so you can make them feel good in the moment? Do you just say something to just kind of get them off your back? Or are you just blunt and straightforward with what you say? What do you do? How do you respond? I would love to know what you guys are doing. What is your process? What's your method? How do you typically deal with these types of situations? Because I find it very interesting when I'm engaging and interacting with people. And realistically, when we are communicating, there could be all types of reasons why a person may or may not respond a certain way. It's not always fear. Sometimes it's just that the person needs time. But I would love to know what you guys are doing and how you guys are handling that. So put some notes in the comments below and let me see so I can see what's going on out here in these streets. Okay, so that is the number 2 reason why we are struggling with how we truly feel. Number 3 reason why we are struggling with how we truly feel is because we are confused by the mixture of thoughts and emotions that we're experiencing. Now, I kind of talked about this a little bit before when I was speaking about how there is the what of the conversation and the how of the conversation. But when I'm working with people and I'm coaching people, one of the easy activities that we do is naming your emotions and being able to just kind of like do this big brain dump where you could just dump everything out on the pages, on the paper, so that you can kind of get a feel for what's actually going on. Like, what are you actually feeling? What are you actually thinking? And when we do this exercise, it's really interesting because what happens is, like, there's all these emotions and thoughts on the paper, right? And when you're dealing with certain situations, the fact of the matter is you could be experiencing a couple of different emotions all at the same time, and they don't all have to make sense and they don't all have to be related. But when you have this experience, this is why it can get confusing. This is why when someone asks you, what do you feel? Sometimes you may be thinking, I don't know what I feel. Or you're just not confident that you know what you feel. You get really confused because you've already made a judgment about what you think this is supposed to mean. You've already made a judgment going back to what we talked about in the beginning. The fear, the shame, the doubt, the anxiety. You are allowing that to guide your choices. And so you've already decided that you're a bad person because you feel this way. You've already decided that it's wrong for you to not want to help this person when they ask you to help them. You've already decided that you are afraid to speak to somebody because you think they might say something mean to you or whatever, you know? So we get confused because we've already made a judgment about our truth. And this is what creates all the chaos. And all this stuff leads to one place. Stress, and more stress. We're stressed out because we don't know how to distinguish between the thoughts and the emotions. We're stressed out because we're making judgments about what we feel. We're stressed out because we're not allowing ourselves to actually explore our truth. We're stressed out because we're allowing shame, fear, doubt, anxiety to guide our choices and decisions. And we can't be free when we're living like this. This is why we got so much going on up here. So much anxiety, so much stress, so much stuff. We cannot be free. I want you to be free. I want you to be lighthearted. I want you to be able to live in the world where where you're not bombarded and burdened and overwhelmed with all this energy. In order to do that, you do need to be mindful. You do need to have a process. You do need to have some way of relieving and releasing this stress. So, this is typically what's going on. This is what's going on. And these are some things to keep in mind the next time you're considering expressing how you truly feel. Making sure that you're not allowing fear, shame, doubt, anxiety, and shame to guide your choices. Making sure that you understand the difference between the what and the how when you're communicating with people. Making sure that you're not judging yourself when you take the time to explore what your actual truth is. Okay? When you keep those things in mind, it becomes a lot easier for you to express how you truly feel, because all you're doing is expressing your truth and making a decision about what emotion you want to be in as you express that truth. You're being mindful about that. There's nothing wrong with that. You never need to be ashamed about your truth when you're expressing yourself to somebody. And when you do that, you're going to be able to create more effective communication with people. You won't be confused about what to say. You'll be able to honor your own values. You'll be able to solve problems. And so these are the types of things that I do when I'm working with clients. These are the types of things that I do when I'm supporting people through coaching or guiding them through challenges that they're dealing with emotionally. Okay, so again, we're talking about why you've struggled to express how you truly feel, why you've struggled how to express how you truly feel. And so this is helpful and is useful in so many different times in your life, especially when you have relationships that you know are important to you, when you have to make big decisions, when you have to make choices and decisions that you know could lead to certain consequences, and you know you've been avoiding, denying, hiding something that's important to you. This could be a great time for you to get some support with knowing how to navigate that so that you can let go of that stress. Quite often the stress happens when we're avoiding and hiding and denying, because now we're holding on to emotions that are no longer helpful for us. So we are going to be, diving a little bit deeper into this, and I want to send you guys on your way with that wisdom, and I hope that you got something valuable out of that. Again, if you feel called to connect with me and you need some support with navigating any of your emotional stress, there's a link up above that you can click on to schedule a free 15-minute call with me. You can talk with me about what's going on. I can see if I can assist you. And if you're interested in my private day retreats, De-Stress and Express, an opportunity for you to take a break, to relax, to relieve stress, to tap into your inner child, and to release any tension that has been built up in your body. Click on that link so we can chat about how I can support you. And tomorrow, we will be talking about what you can do to start eliminating some of the stress that you have been dealing with. I'm going to share with you some actual ways, some relaxation techniques, and some things that you can do to start eliminating this emotional stress that you've been dealing with. So I'll see you guys tomorrow in our next conversation.